Welcome to episode 47 of the Overrated Experience Sports Betting Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Blondin. We're back for another week of exciting action in the betting world, or at least my betting world, and you're just living in it. If you haven't joined the Overrated Experience Sports Betting Podcast before, you're getting into a podcast. It's a podcast for sports gamblers out there. Of course, there's the high-end sports gambler. This is, every weekend, every weekday, every moment sports gambler type of show where we give our thoughts and opinions, have some guests on to talk about their introduction to the sports gambling world. Also, talk to the big stories in sports. Try to focus the attention on some of the major sports, but we'll dive over into some of the other sports out there that maybe are unique, like World Cup action or unique golf tournaments, etc., or UFC. But mostly you're going to hear a lot about football. It's football season, a lot of English football as well. On the other side of the Atlantic Ocean, we're talking about soccer, which is a big part of my viewing, of course, and NBA, NHL. I think we'll cycle back into baseball closer to the playoffs as we get into series action, wildcard matchups, etc. So welcome. And you can find us on Twitter at Overrated EXPER2. That's Overrated EXPER2. Drop us a line, follow us, grow the podcast. Also on Facebook, you can follow us at Overrated Experience Sports Betting Podcast. Instagram, Overrated Experience. You'll find us. Drop a line, drop some picks, drop some thoughts on the show. We'd love to hear from you. So here we go. Getting into the world here at episode 41, we're going to talk about the news first. And some of the stories that have been breaking since the last time we spoke include a big story in the NBA, and that is James Harden and his request to be traded from the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, along with this trade request, this week he came out while on his trip to China for, I guess, a promotional tour of some sort. He talked about Morey, the GM of the Philadelphia 76ers, calling him a liar, and he'll never play for an organization that has him as part of it. So my thoughts are that I think some athletes get into this situation where James Harden, former MVP, former impact player, Oklahoma City, want out. Houston, I want out. Brooklyn, I want out. Philadelphia, I want out. I mean, how many times do you want out? And you know what? I'm just going to not lie to you. Was he 33 years old? He's not the James Harden of 6 years ago. He's not the MVP caliber player. And to be honest, even when he was an MVP caliber player, he was never known for a playoff run, take a team on my back and let's get a ring. He's not that guy. He's at best maybe a supporting player to Joel Embiid, with the 76ers or any other team he goes to. So I think he's overplaying his hand quite a bit here. But kudos to him. The NBA players have done such a great job, and you have to give them credit. You can't fall in line with the owners and say, oh, the players are making too much money. These players have very, very cleverly have worked out contracts where they have a ton of the leverage, and these owners realize the NBA has shifted for the lengthiest period of time from the name on the jersey versus the emblem on the jersey, right? So it's no longer, many fans and a lot of the younger generation after my generation tend to love a player and will follow him regardless of what team they're on and buy their merchandise. It's no longer hardcore hometown, hardcore Celtics, Lakers, Bulls. It's not that anymore. It is hardcore Kevin Durant, hardcore Kyrie Irving, hardcore LeBron, like hardcore this or that. It's the player, and they know it. They've taken advantage of it. Kudos to them. And the owners have to put up with it because of the billions and billions of dollars that these players put in their pocket. You don't think that the 40, 50, whatever, $30 million, $40 million, 50, 60, whatever it is that we've seen rolled out this year is by accident to you. It is because of the billions that are put into the players' or the owners' pockets, and the flexibility of the players to agree to things like an in-season tournament that we're going to see roll out this year, which will eventually lead to, oh, by the way, next time the TV contract is up, we're going to split off the in-season tournament to go over to NBC while ESPN and partners and TNT continue with the regular season NBA action. You watch how that grows into another money-making machine, and you know what? The players get a piece, and good for them. But for James Harden, again, sometimes a player doesn't realize their place in the game. And what I mean by that is that his stock is depreciating. There are not phone lines ringing in Philadelphia to break down a team, because that's what would have to happen for a team that would want a player like James Harden. Would have to be a team looking to contend. And how many teams are out there that are looking to give up the farm, what Philadelphia would want, who's also trying to contend, that they would take? So are the Clippers that team? Maybe they're crazy enough to take James Harden, but what are the odds that Harden actually doesn't demand another trade at some point, regardless of where he goes? So James Harden, the beard, you've overplayed your hand, and I think you're going to realize that you ain't James Harden 6 years ago. So good luck, buddy. Another sporting front is just a funny note. The Live Tour. You've heard of that tour, right? You know, the long-standing traditional Live Tour, formerly competitor of the PGA Tour, now partners with the PGA Tour, and we don't know exactly what the future is with this marriage between the PGA Tour and the Live Tour offers. But there was an announcement by the Live Tour that at some point, and maybe that's going into next season of the Live Tour, they're going to open up the ability, because they go in teams, right? It's not just individuals. They're going to have the ability for player movement, which sounds so stupid in golf. And so players are going to, for some reason, be able to agree to be traded or transferred into other teams on the Live Tour. So, you know, one day you could be on, Brooks Koepka's team, and he may, sit you down and tell you you've been traded over to Phil Mickelson's team. It sounds stupid saying it, and I think this idea is, I applaud some of the organizations out there, trying new ideas, like the NBA doing an in-season tournament, maybe Live Golf even wearing shorts. Hey, we're going to go. Where do we wear shorts? And relax on the dress code. But this player movement seems kind of hokey and just stupid. So I'm going to put a thumbs down on this, but interesting, and I guess we'll see where that goes. Other notes, had a chance to watch, or at least I don't know if I finished or not, but the Johnny Manziel Netflix special. And I don't know if you also had a chance on Netflix to check that out. I suggest checking it out. It's an interesting story. I won't give too much away because, most of his story is public anyway. That, as a Texas kid, found success in high school and, went to Texas A&M. And it's a story of a guy who had natural talent at that level in high school, who stood out. A guy who had natural talent going to Texas A&M, who became a rock star. And when you watch the footage, how ridiculous, the obsession with a player gets from the public. And you see Cliff Kingsbury on there, and he was the previous coach of the Arizona Cardinals, and he was the offensive coordinator for Texas A&M at the time, and he's part of that. And Johnny Manziel basically lived off his legs, the simple playbook in college, and he excelled. Had that big game in Alabama, beating Alabama, and he became a rock star. He had the money sign. But you know what? At some point, his natural talent was drowned by, off the field issues and the realization that the NFL is not the NCAA, and he sunk. Right? He sunk when he came to the NFL. But it's an interesting story. I'd recommend to check it out. And if you haven't checked out Quarterbacks, the Netflix series that follows, and I talked about this a bit, about Patrick Mahomes, Marcus Mariota, and Kirk Cousins, it really layers the three levels of quarterback that really stand out here. So obviously the king of the castle is Patrick Mahomes. Even his mentality is such where there's a mix of confidence but humble, but also he just seems sharp and he just seems on point, and you're not surprised that he's constantly contending for Super Bowls or has success. Where you have Kirk Cousins, where he's definitely passionate. I think you see a new light on Kirk Cousins and his commitment to the game and the things he does to get his body ready each week. But he still stands as a tier lower, like probably 2 tiers lower than Patrick Mahomes. Just his mindset. I just don't know if it's like it's not to the level of Patrick Mahomes. But Patrick Mahomes just seems so stable and a leader, and just different. And when you got Marcus Mariota, you can tell a guy who's got no confidence, and you can really see it in Atlanta, where he lost his starting role, eventually leaving the organization, now fighting for a backup spot with the Philadelphia Eagles, which, being a backup, may be exactly where Marcus Mariota is better suited. A veteran now that has NFL experience, and a guy that can be mobile, and plenty of teams now have quarterbacks out there like a Jalen Hurts he's going to be backing up, or at least potentially, where some reason Jalen Hurts does go down, you have a Marcus Mariota that you do not have to totally revamp your offense and change your playbook. You still can be flexible if he has to come in. So that's some interesting news on that front. And what else did I have to talk about? Well, nothing. I'm going to skip that now to talk first about preseason NFL action. And last week we talked about some games and gave some picks out, and I thought we did pretty good. We did pretty good in the recap here. We talked about Houston, that Thursday nighter, and really what stood out was their depth in quarterback. CJ Strauss had a short time under the gun. He did throw a pick on his first drive. The pressure must be crazy because people are going nuts on those kind of 10 minutes of action, one unsuccessful drive, and a lot of people are probably writing him off already as he's not ready. But let's pump the brakes there. But they had obviously a few other guys come in that have NFL experience, and guess what? The Patriots have nothing. They just, even in preseason, they scream boring. They scream beige paint. You know what I mean? They scream bland coffee, or like just not exciting me whatsoever as a Patriot fan that Mac Jones was not playing in this game, but there really was nothing exciting you could be pumped about, especially in the AFC East this year with the powerhouses of Buffalo, possibly New York, and Miami loading up. New England might be in for a long year, or Belichick's got to have his best coaching year possible. So we got Houston covering the spread there quite comfortably, so no problem there. Green Bay, show me the love. Show me the Jordan love. Jordan Love started out, was kind of tight a bit, and Green Bay pulled away, covered the spread, and Green Bay takes it, gives us the victory. I was 1 point off the Jacksonville Dallas game. I had Dallas to cover. They did not. They lost by 4. Nathan Rourke, Canadian for Jacksonville. Canadian screwed me because he should have been taken down, throws for a touchdown where he's pretty much in a sack situation. The Cowboys couldn't bring him down. So I was 1 point away from running the board on the Saturday, Thursday through Saturday. And also took the over in the LA Ram and Charger game. That comfortably went over. So guess what? We're geniuses here. And the tougher part, though, is going into week 2, you're really throwing the dart at the board who is going to be starting or playing and how long. A lot of the starters don't play. So my picks here are based on thoughts and how coaches may strategize. So here we go. Thursday nighter has the Cleveland Browns taking on the Eagles. These teams have been practicing with each other. Eagles are a 3.5 point favorite over the Browns coming in. I see the Eagles and kind of watching, some of the news stories on how camp is going. The reason why this organization is successful is I think they have a spirit of competition going for positions, and they had a lot of positions open up as they were picked apart due to free agency. As a successful team and organization, not just on the field, but off the field, coordinators leaving and taking other roles other places. But I still see them as a group that has a culture of fighting for positions and playing time. So right now they have a battle at running back and safety, etc. So I still see that the Eagles have some sort of passion in playing at home. At -3.5, I'm going to take the Eagles. Browns. Not sure what's in it for them at the moment. I can't see Deshaun Watson playing any lengthy minutes, if any minutes at all. So we'll take the Eagles on that. Heading into Saturday, I took probably more games than I should have, but let's go with it anyway.
Get that. Could you try again?
Siri, shut up. Okay. That's Siri, my laptop going off. If you don't think your laptops will listen to you, you're wrong, because they are. So, moving on to Jacksonville taking on Detroit. And I looked at this game. The Lions are a 3-point underdog at home. But what do we got here? We have a Jacksonville team that's young. Like I said, Nathan Ward, quarterback, may get some more playing time to get some more looks. Canadian quarterback. And they had quite a high scoring game against Dallas. And then Detroit at home, Dan Campbell. I can see this game going over 39.5. And if you've noticed, a lot of the point spreads have gone up based on week one. Sorry, the over-unders from the 33s and 34s to the 39s and a half and 40s. So I say this game on turf indoors does hit 40 or 40 plus. So take that. Just pick. And moving on, Buffalo takes on Pittsburgh.
One moment.
Okay, Siri, shut up. So Buffalo takes on Pittsburgh. Buffalo is in Pittsburgh. And what I like here is the Buffalo Bills I took last week. That's a pick last week as well. Had the Bills to cover against Indy. They actually won. So put that, chalk us up another win there. But heading into Pittsburgh, I think Pittsburgh is probably more in tune to try to get their young offense up and running and, really try to establish some momentum coming into the season. So I think the 2.5 is low. I don't know if Josh Allen's going to see some action or Stephon Diggs, but Pickett's got to probably get some action in here. And I like the Pittsburgh Steelers at home at -2.5. Miami, Houston. Miami takes on Houston. I see Houston now as a preseason champion here, so they're -3.5, and I do like them there at 3.5 at home. Again, with their veteran quarterbacks that in there, or like at least experienced quarterbacks, plus you got second overall draft pick and CJ Stroud. I do see that they will probably bring it a little more attacking effort, for 4 quarters versus, a quarter that maybe the Dolphins and the starters will have. So watch out there. Take Houston 3.5. Also New England, also practicing with Green Bay throughout the week, but they are a 3.5 point underdog. Green Bay is a favorite. I hoping that Jordan Love plays again. I do think again they're another team like Pittsburgh that's trying to click and get that offense going and get guys on the field to actually, run through a few things. So I think despite Mac Jones probably going to get some action here, Green Bay -3.5. I do not see New England competing here. Last but not least, Dallas Cowboys, and I just took, I don't know why. I'm not even a Cowboys fan, but, I like the idea that they're on the road here in Seattle. And you know what? Let's throw it up there as a 40-point game. Let's take the over. I don't know why. There's no rhyme or reason for this. I like the over. Late night, Saturday, drink a beer, bet the over. There's no way in hell I'd bet an under on a Saturday night. So that's your NFL action. Take it or leave it. Recap for this week, we have the Thursday nighter, Eagles covering the spread at 3.5. Saturday, Buffalo, Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh takes it covers the spread at 2.5. Jacksonville, Detroit over 39.5. New England, Green Bay. Green Bay covers 3.5 or wins by 3.5. Miami, Houston, again another 3.5 game. Houston does cover the -3.5. Dallas, Seattle over 40. So see what happens there and see if my preseason picks or I'm a flop. We'll see. We are next going to go to, again, one of my passions when you head into the weekend and a morning starts off with some EPL action, English Premier League. And just before we get into some of the picks, congratulations to Man City. They are the Super Cup champions. And what that means is that the during the start of the season, the Europa champion versus the Champions League champion for the Super Cup. We went to a shootout today, and Man City won 2-1 technically, but it was 1-1 heading into the shootout. Penalty kicks, that is. So they are the Champions League champion, FA Cup champion, EPL champion, now the Super Cup champion. Amazing. And also, in another note, also starting this weekend is Bundesliga action, which is the German league. So, as of Friday, Harry Kane takes on Werder Bremen. Bayern Munich takes on Werder Bremen. German action is very, very exciting. Usually kicks off a half hour before EPL on Saturdays. I don't have any picks for this weekend so far. I'll probably add a few picks in there if anything stands out going forward. But exciting news. Bundesliga is back. All right. Now, one of the big stories I wanted to touch on here is I touched on it last week a bit. Let me just gather my information so I'm prepared to speak to you, the listener. And that is more and more influence by the Saudi League. So, big news that came out this week or after the podcast that we have had was that Neymar from PSG, the Brazilian superstar, he has accepted and sold to the Saudi team. He's going to be heading over to Al Hilal, and apparently there's like 3 or 4 teams here in the Saudi league that are owned by the Saudi group, that the investment fund, monster funds, monster money. We're talking like fucking huge amounts of money that are unprecedented. Nobody on the planet involved in sports will be able to match the money that is being provided here. And this is like pocket change. And when Neymar, look at Neymar, he goes over for $200 million, okay? And some of the other, thanks to Transfer News Live, that's the kind of the feed I'm following. They're at Deadline Day Live. So I'm hoping these reports are accurate. So not only the money he's getting for transferring over, and I'm just going to touch base on what money he's getting. What money is he getting? Because it's a shit ton of money. So much news about him. PSG receives a $100 million fee, or a bit less than a $100 million fee. Looks like there's several reports of different numbers, but the one report is 2-year, $200 million deal with the Saudi club Al Hilal, and he's there now taking over, getting comfortable with his new team. But listen to some of the things that are been provided to him, and you can imagine what's been provided to Ronaldo and some of the other players. That you get the phone call, you're not going to say no. Like, let's be honest, they're not going to say no to the ridiculous, not just money in their pocket, but also some of the perks. So some perks Neymar will experience because of his move to Saudi Arabia: a private plane at his disposal. Not bad, huh? Private plane at his disposal. A huge house with staff. Hey, show up here. You got a staff ready to go. He's not paying that staff. $80,000 bonus for every Al Hilal win. So not only is he going to make $100 million a year, and probably more, and that's just one report, he's also going to have $80,000 more in his pocket for every win they have. $500,000 for every post or story he puts on social media that promotes Saudi Arabia. See where we're going here? Do you think these deals are just money? These perks come with a price. And so, hey, that's part of the deal of doing business. You sign a contract, there's stipulations in there, you read it, and you sign it, and you commit to it. But part of this is also taking a name like Neymar or Ronaldo, and there's other things involved. And we've seen this kind of in the reports in the live contracts, that some of their network that these golfers and probably soccer players have to be introduced to the folks in the Saudi league to make connections, make network connections. So we don't know what that's about. So we'd love to see the details of that, because again, there's more to this than just the money. Also, Al Hilal will offer Neymar the following gifts to come. Gifts, just gifts. This is like a signing bonus. Bentley Continental GT, an Aston Martin DBX, a Lamborghini Huracan. Not one of these cars do I think I'll have the privilege of actually seeing live. And he's got 3 of them just given to him because he showed up. So what else? The room or the house we were talking about is a 25-room mansion and a personal driver. Think about that when I'm telling you about the offers, and just think about that going forward as more and more players are asked to join. And we're already now having stories. Wow, Liverpool's getting beaten down here because they seem to be like the target here. Because it looks like Alisson Becker, their goalkeeper right now, star keeper, Brazilian, is being chased by Al Nassr, and apparently he's tempted to move to Saudi Arabia. Gee, wonder why. You look at, now here's again a shocking part. You have a guy that's in the prime of his career, Mo Salah of Liverpool, reportedly authorized Saudi Arabian representatives to open negotiations with Liverpool over a potential transfer this summer. It's not stopping. It's not going to stop. You know, these. If the Live Tour was any example that you see in the PGA impact, it was very fast. The Live Tour launched, lawsuits went back and forth in the PGA, the squabble happened, and they gained so much leverage and financial superiority. They're like the guy with the big stack at the poker table. They eventually brokered a deal where they had all the leverage, where they basically own the PGA Tour now. Let's not kid yourself. They basically call the shots. The Saudi investment fund calls the shots in the PGA Tour. So where's this going to go? I don't know. This when you start looking at the players now listed on here, and you keep following, like I said, Transfer News Live is doing a pretty good job of, you know, if you want information on who's and what team and getting late breaking news, it's amazing. It's every couple days you're seeing a big star considering, or, you know, probably wants to renew in Europe and move forward and to negotiate in Saudi Arabia. So it's wild. And the latest report today was Saudi Arabian Football Association are purportedly in talks with UEFA over having a Saudi team in the UEFA Champions League from 2025 and onwards. So remember, it was not that long ago where we only heard really about the Saudi Arabian Professional League because Cristiano Ronaldo signed for a large amount. And the first thought was, what the hell where's he going from here? You think that was their plan all along, just to grab players to take pictures? There's a bigger business decision in mind and a bigger plan in mind, and the shoe's starting to drop, all right? The shoe's starting to drop when you start hearing about UEFA considering Saudi Arabia. And guess what? Newsflash. The folks that run UEFA don't have a good reputation. They tend to see dollar signs. They do not have the best interest of the sport necessarily in mind. They're looking at the bigger money, financial windfall. And the folks that are running and owning European teams now, they're American. They're less and less Europeans owning. And the fear is that if you like the way the soccer setup is done today, and that is, you have a bunch of European countries that have various different levels of leagues, and they come together in things like UEFA championships, Champions League, etc. Those traditions, watch out, they may change. I'm not saying for good or bad. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Business is business, and you know what? It's funny to see now it's the Saudi Arabia League that is flexing the financial muscle when for the last 20 years it's been Manchester United, Barcelona, Real Madrid, Man City, Juventus, all those big powerhouses that have been flexing those muscles to the other teams. Now it's another league that's flexing way bigger muscles over Europe. So we'll see what happens here. And just watch out. There's going to be a lot more news, and don't be surprised if that report's true, that you'll find one of the Saudi teams, because they're building up they're building up a top-heavy top 5, top 4 teams, just like each domestic league has, and they'll have a roster that does rival the best European teams. And if they don't have it today, they'll go buy it tomorrow. So just don't be surprised of the moves that are happening. And here's a conspiracy theory for you. That you know each of the owners out there in the big clubs, the Manchester United, Cities, Chelsea's, Juventus, Barcelona, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, that a few years back there was the announcement of a Super League where all the top European teams would compete, kind of like in a North American style league, best on best, but they wouldn't get relegated. There would be money, guaranteed money. And the outcry in the fans basically shut it down, and people, went back in their holes. But watch this comes out, and watch for that first person to say the argument that we need to put a European Super League together to combat what we're seeing now as our talent being taken away to another league in Saudi Arabia. You watch, somebody will bring that up for a justification to make that move and revisit that conversation because they feel there might be more of an appetite for Joe Public to accept that. You watch. That's gonna happen. That's my prediction, my conspiracy theory. But for the players, they have a lot of leverage. There is a lot. You've now just opened up another league that has the financial muscle to add players and jack up prices and put more demand on their services. So from a player perspective, you guys win. And supply and demand. Oh, and not to mention Messi, who did turn down the Saudi money, did reportedly take an offer in MLS for obviously a lot more than just a salary, but even revenue, to my understanding, that he receives for any Apple News subscribers that sign up for season pass since he's been in MLS. And by the way, he's dominated. 9 goals in a handful of games already in the League Cup. And it's great to see, the best player in the world, the best player possibly of all time, come in and dominate. Not just stick around and be okay, but actually show the level of talent, capability he has compared to, an up-and-coming league like MLS, which is improving, but obviously not even close to the same level Messi is normally playing with in Champions League and other international competitions. So great to see him here. He's doing amazing. So that's exciting. Let's get to some picks here. Okay. Last week for EPL, we had some pretty good calls. Man City, we said it was going to be a one-sided event. We said Man City was going to win this game, 23 shots on goal, and the game was going to go over, and that's exactly what happened. 23 shots exactly. So you get your break. Sometimes you lose by 1, or sometimes you get exactly what you're looking for, and that's what I got. Also, we had on Saturday, I stayed at Brighton, which I love Brighton because they are fast-paced, they're attacking, they do not refrain from shooting on goal, which I love, and hitting target. So they had like 10 shots on goal themselves, and I said 7. The game would be won by Brighton handily, 4-1, and that this game would have over 2 goals or more, and that's exactly what happened. So Brighton, nice to see they fit my scouting report, and that's to have a lot of shots and a lot of shots on target. So good one there. This one worked out really well as well, and that was the Newcastle-Aston Villa game. I took the same game parlay over 2, which easily happened. Shots on target, I think it was 9 or 8 I had on here, and bam, no problem. Here's the one that I feel good about, because there's so many times you feel like shit based on your analysis and how things turn out the complete opposite of what you think. This one landed on exactly where I thought this was going. I took the over 9 corners, and by the end of the first half, they had 2 total. 1 for Aston Villa and 1 for Newcastle. But I did state that could be to our advantage because I had full faith that Newcastle would be involved in a corner fest even if there was a low total in the first half. And that's exactly what happened. There was 9 corners in the second half alone, finishing with 11. Felt good about that play. We take home a payout. Where we didn't see a payout was the Liverpool-Chelsea game on Sunday. We taking the over-under and shots on target. It was 2-1, but one of the goals was called off, so it did finish 1-1. If you watch the game, it was back and forth, but a lot of missed opportunities, especially to put the ball on target. That's one of the most frustrating things to watch when guys at this caliber of play can't hit the target, but they can hit the 16th row with terrible, terrible precision. So that didn't work out. Wish it would have, but you can't win them all, even though you want them. So heading into this weekend. Now, what's peculiar here is that I'm working off of FanDuel right now, and some of the same game parlays they have do not have certain items that usually are there, and this is on Wednesday evening. So I'm going to give you some matchups, but it's contingent on these bets being offered in the same game parlay. So I don't have payouts. So for example, I have Brentford, this one has everything I want. So this one does not have a caveat. I'm going full bore on this one. Brentford takes on Fulham. Two teams. Brentford is a counterattack team. Pretty exciting team. Fulham's solid. But I think this game will at least have 2 goals. 1 goal in the first half and over 8.5 corners. So that's $100 going to pay $120. Brighton taking on Wolverhampton. And if you watched Brighton, it talked about they were all over Luton and shots on target shots. Wolves, who lost to Man U this Monday, controversial situation where they should have had a penalty that was not called. In fact, the referees that were calling that game were removed from the schedule this week based on that miss. So I got to believe there's going to be a lot of shots. But shots is not shown. So I'm going to say take the over 8.5 corners, because I see plenty of corners in this game as well. And take shots over 25 or more, if offered. Okay? If the shots is not offered in the same game parlay, then I'm not going to guarantee that pick. But over/under, corners 8.5, shots 25. Moving on to Man U in Tottenham, 12:30 matchup. There's a couple afternoon games in the EPL this weekend. I like the goals in this game, over 2.5. Same game parlay again, of course. Both teams to score. And I don't know why it's not part of the same game parlay. It should be and will be, I hope, by Saturday afternoon. And that's over 7.5. So over 2.5, both teams to score, and over 7.5 corners. So over 2.5, both teams to score, over 7.5 corners. Last but not least, Saturday action. Big matchup here, big matchup. The champs, Man City, host the up-and-coming Newcastle Magpies. I like this game to go over 2.5. I like goals in this game. I like goals. It's going to be an aggressive game. Now, again, corners is not displayed as a same game parlay on this one. I don't know why. But once it does, I'm going to suggest taking over 2.5 and corners over 8.5. There you have it. EPL action. NFL action. Episode 47. Controversy. Picks. Everything you wanted out of a podcast. Stay tuned for next week. We're over and out. Have a great day. Talk to you again.